Once upon a time, there were two siblings, a boy and a girl, in the village of Olumo. The girl's name was Ebele and the boy's name was Adonku. Ebele was 3 years older than her brother. They had lost their parents when they were very young and lived alone in the old house their parents had built before they died. They suffered a lot together and did not have any relative that came to their aid. They were forced to do odd jobs to make ends meet. At the back of their house, they had a small farm. They planted vegetables and other crops they used to prepare food. After many years of suffering, they grew up to become very close and did almost everything together. They would go to the stream, forest, and markets to wash clothes, fetch firewood, and buy or sell things together. And in the evenings, they would sit in front of their homes to relax and tell each other stories of the tortoise and other folk tales. Ebele did not think much about her future and livelihood. She was mostly concerned about her brother's future and wanted to make sure he grew up well to hold the family name in high esteem for the sake of their dead parents. One day, when Adunku was 23 years old, Ebele decided to talk to him to get married. That evening, when they finished their chores and ate the evening meal, they went outside to lie down on the mat and tell each other a story. But when it was Ebele's turn to tell her story, she brought up the subject of him choosing a wife he liked and getting married. "Oh, sister," exclaimed Adunku, "why should I get married before you?" He asked in surprise. "Adunku, you are my brother. Adunku, you are my younger brother, and my priority now is to make sure you are all right before anything else," Ebele said to him. "But you are my elder sister, and you should get married first," he emphasized. Ebele knew he was right, but she was not concerned about herself. She was particular about his own priority as a priority. She was able to convince him to find a stable girl to marry after a lot of talk. 5 months later, Adunku was able to find a beautiful girl to marry, and they all lived in the old house together. Ebele refused to marry. She decided to sacrifice everything for the happiness of her brother. Few years later, Adunku and his wife had gotten 3 male children. People often call the first child senior boy, the second one middle boy, and the third one junior boy. And they all grew up with their parents and aunts as one big family without quarreling or envy. One day, the children went out to play with other children in the same area with them. As they were playing, the children started telling them provocative words about their names. "How can people call you senior boy?" One of the children asked the eldest son. "You are nameless. You have no name, no real name." "Yes, every child should have a real name," another child chipped in. So it went on until the three brothers got annoyed and left the place. They went back home to confront their parents and aunts. "Papa, Mama, Aunt," said senior boy, "why is it that we have no name?" He asked. "But you have names," replied their father. Middle boy said, "But Papa, what we are being called are not names that belong to us. They are just nicknames." "Give us real names, father, please," they all cried. "All right, my children, if that's what you want, you will get named. But you must be ready to choose the names yourselves," he said, "because I have not thought of any yet." He added, "Yes, Papa, we will choose names ourselves," they chorused. So right there and then, senior boy was told to choose the name he would like to bear. Smiling sheepishly, he said, "I choose Nadumneye as my name, meaning my father will provide." Immediately, his father became happy and they all clapped for him. "That's good, my son. That's a good name. I know you will never forget your father," he said, laughing. Middle boy said, that the name I want to bear is Nemneye. They also clapped for him because it meant my mother will provide. Wow, their parents were very proud of them. Their children had not chosen names because that does not show the value they have for them. His father asked, "Is your the time turn now to tell us your name, junior boy?" Junior boy now stood up. He said, "Let me see. Well, I will choose Chinenye." As soon as he spoke the word, his parents were completely crestfallen. "You mean after giving birth to you and all these sufferings and caring, you have no value for us?" His father asked. "Is your chi you honor and not any of us?" He asked again. They were completely dismayed at what their last born had chosen for a name. But Aunt Ebele did not see anything wrong with the name. She said, "My brother Adonku, don't be angry with the boy because the name he has chosen is a very good one. In fact, it's the best of them all." But Adonku and his wife did not see it that way. He got up and said to Junior boy, "From now on, son, you've chosen your path. Let your chief feed and take care of you, not your mother and I." And with that, he sauntered out of the place with his wife following behind. From that day, their parents started hating Chinenye. Their mother would prepare food in the house and give to everybody in the family except him. Auntie Bele noticed it and would eat her food and leave some for him. She would wait until their parents had gone out, then take it to him. Chinenye's brother would also hide and give him food to eat. One day their mother called them and was very angry. She went and told their father and he had them beaten. Their mother cautioned them and said, "Let Chinenye go out and fend for himself since he doesn't know what we've done for him since birth." Auntie Bile decided to talk to them. "This boy is your child, isn't he?" she asked. "Why do you treat him this way because of the name he has chosen? This is a very bad thing both of you are doing. Please stop it." On hearing this, their parents became angry and warned Ebele never to intrude into their affairs because she was not the parent of the children. When Aunt Ebele heard this, she cried. She cried. She cried. She really cried. Her brother had forgotten when they were small and suffering. He has gotten married now and her life no longer mattered to him. She cried and cried. He has forgotten she sacrificed her entire life for his happiness. She kept crying and her nephews would normally come to comfort her and tell her they love her. One day, Chinenye was called into the room by his parents and when he went to meet them, they tied him, they gagged him and used a long cane to flog him. They flogged him to the extent that all his body he was in pain. They made up their mind to take him to the evil forest and throw him away so that they will see how his chi will be able to help him. To them, they felt it was a disgrace. While they were scheming all this, the children quietly went to their aunt and told her everything. Ebele felt bad. How they can discriminate their own children, she thought within her. And with that in mind, eh, she watched. So on the day when their parents were about to throw Chinenye away, Auntie Ebele took some yams and a small sharp knife, wrapped them with her wrapper and put them in a big bowl and quietly followed them all the way to the evil forest without them knowing she was behind them. They got to a place full of termites and dumped him in the center of the termites so that he would quickly be beaten to death, and they left him gagged to die. When they had gone, Ebele quickly rushed to help him and received some bites as also from the termites. She quickly brought out the knife and used it to tear all the gags away, all the things they use in tying and setting free. She brought out the yams and said to him, "Chinenye, my son, take these yams and be eating them gradually. Use this knife for survival in the jungle to get what you can eat. Try your best to survive any way you can. If life becomes better for you, don't forget me. But if it happens to die, my son, we shall meet with our Creator and part no more. I'm going, stay well, my son. With that, she hugged him, crying, and left quickly so that no one will notice she had left home. Meanwhile, in the evil forest, Chineye was busy crying his heart out. He was crying, he was crying, he was crying terribly. Ah, does it mean I'll never see my brothers and aunt again? He kept asking himself. Oh, my chi, he cried aloud. Please come and help me. He beckoned to his creator, sobbing. I'm suffering because I used you as my name. My parents have now forgotten me. Please don't let me down. He was in pain from the injuries I received and was very hungry by now. He remembered the yams his aunt gave him and took out some to eat. After eating, there was no water to drink. Throughout that day, he managed to stay without water until it was night. At night, he went under a big tree and covered himself with the wrapper his aunt had given him. Shaking with fright, he shut his eyes tightly and within a short time drifted off to sleep. He woke up the next morning to the chirping sound of birds at the top of the tree and quickly scrambled to his feet, wondering where he was until realization dawned on him. He had cried so much that his eyes were now swollen, his throat dry, and it was very tasty. He searched around if he could get some water to drink, but there was no river or anything of his sort. He was still busy searching for water when a bird flew towards him and landed on his left shoulder. Chinenye stood still in surprise. Then he heard the bird talking. Chinenye, Chinenye, look behind you. You see the shortest tree there. Among other trees, check the hollow in the tree and take whatever you see inside. With that, he flew away. Chinenye looked behind him and sure enough, there was a short tree among the trees there. Slowly and unsure of what he was doing, he walked towards it. When he got to the short tree, he peered around it and found there was a hollow in the tree. He peered inside and found water in it. Quickly, he dipped his hands inside, scooped water and drank until he was satisfied. He stood back and breathed a sigh of relief. I never knew in life water is as precious as this, he thought gratefully, and quietly walked back to the big tree and sat down beneath it, thinking the way forward. 7 years passed, and Chinenye was still alive in the forest. He had planted some of the raw yams his aunt gave him and had survived by it and other vegetables in the forest. He also had a small hut he had built for shelter. He would sometimes imagine how his family was living comfortably without him. Throughout his stay in the forest, he never saw anyone because no one ventured into those parts of the forest. One day, while he was sitting at the front of his little hut, he saw that same bird that had visited him several years back come to stand on his left shoulder again, talking. Chinenye, Chinenye, go and look for the short tree you went to last time and check the hollow again. Take whatever you find inside it said, and flew away again. Surprised, Chinenye got up and looked about for the bird, but alas, it had flown away. He went in search of the tree immediately and peered into the hollow, and behold, there were coins inside. He was surprised. He dipped his hand into the hollow and brought out the coins. There were so many of the coins. He packed as much as he could and went back to his hut. He packed as much as he could and went back to his hut and smiled. He thought about what to do with the money all night and came to a decision. The next day, he took some of the money and went to the closest village to the forest in search of yam seedlings to buy. He did not know the way. He saw two small boys and a girl playing and went to meet them to ask where the village market was. But as soon as they saw him walking towards them with his wild and unkempt appearance, they started to run away. He called them back and told them not to run away because he was a human being and explained what had happened to him. They came and listened to him and then showed him the way to the market. So they helped him to buy the yams and some farming tools. They escorted him back to the place he had met them. But before they parted ways, Chinenye begged them to show him their place so that he could see them again anytime he came to the village. They showed him where they lived with their parents, and he left them and went back to the forest. Back in the forest, he cleared a very large area of land and planted the yam seedlings. It was so large that he felt very happy for the first time in his life since he was sent away. Chinenye was now 24 years old. Looking back through the years, he felt a bit proud of himself and thanked his chief for helping him. It's been a year now since he planted the yams, and they had grown and become matured enough for harvesting. He decided to harvest them when it was when he was ready. So the following week, he started harvesting the yams. When he was through, he carried them to the market. And because of the large sizes of the yams, they quickly sold out. Money was very much. The money was so much, he didn't know what to do again with the money. He took some of it and went to town to buy building materials and invited builders to build a very big house for him in the forest. The house had many rooms and halls, and when it was completed, he was very happy. But he was lonely in the big house, so he decided to go back to the village where he had met those three children to ask for them. When he got to the house, the children lived with their parents, he saw that they had all grown up. The girl was so beautiful that he could not take his eyes off her. The girl and her brothers recognized him and were very happy to see him. They welcomed him and introduced him to their parents. Before Chinenye left that day, he made his intentions known to their parents that he wanted to marry the girl. So soon the marriage was arranged and they got married. She went to live with him in the big house. They had two children and the house became a very happy and lively one for Chinenye. There was water, light, and enough food in the house. He had many servants that took care of the place and guarded it. Other people started coming to request for land from him, and at that young age, he became the king of the place and named it Chisono village, meaning God loves me and I love God. When Chinenye was 30 years old, the neighboring villages and towns experienced drought. Water became very scarce and he sought for water all over the place, but there was none. The towns and village people discovered there was only one place that water was available and constant, and that was in the big house in Chisono village. They went there to beg for water, and Chinenye's wife, a very young and kind lady, would always give them. One day, his brothers decided to go in search of water in the big house in Chisono village. On that day that they chose to go, hmm, Chinenye was standing at the veranda of his house looking out onto the streets, and he recognized them as soon as they came closer. He asked who they were and about their family. They told him they were Adonku's children and were three in number, but their father had sent the third one away because he chose the name Chinenye, and they were sure he must have died because he never came back. Chinenye wanted to cry, but held himself. He asked them about their parents, and they told him they were still alive with their aged aunt, who also lived with them. Chinenye was happy to hear that his aunt was still alive. I will give you water, he said, but before I give you, you will have to go and bring your entire family for me to be sure you are not thieves, but good people. So the men standing in front of him did not recognize him, but they were surprised at his demand. The men were surprised, but agreed because they actually needed the water. As they were about to leave, Chinenye said, "One of you will have to remain behind." He shouted for the guards to hold and lock up the middle boy, now known as Nemneye, in a room until his older brother had returned. Few hours later, he came back with his entire family. His aunt did not recognize Chinenye. Chinenye ordered them to be shown to her room. He asked his father about his third son that the eldest one was talking about. His father got up and replied him that he had his father said Chinenye, he does not know the whereabouts of Chinenye now, that he must have died. So he said, in fact, the third boy was a very stupid child and ungrateful. Then Chinenye asked, why are you calling him a stupid and ungrateful child? He was aspirating because he knew he was the one his father was referring to with such a venom in his voice. Chinenye was perplexed. How can a father talk so ill, speak so ill of his son? And where is that your son now? He asked him. His father replied, they were to choose names for themselves. Of all the names to choose from, he chose Chinenye. And that was why we sent him out of the house. He left and never came back. The stupid boy must have died many years ago. This serves him right. He ended laughing. What is the meaning of Chinenye? Chinenye asked him, feigning ignorance. Chinenye means my personal creator will give me, he replied, shaking his head vehemently. So what did you do to him for choosing a name you felt was the wrong one? Chinenye asked. We told him to leave the house and he left. His mother chipped in. He was a very stupid boy to have chosen that name. After all, we have suffered to train and feed him, she concluded. So what are your two sons doing for a living now? He asked his parents. They are doing petty fishing and small-scale farming for a living, his father replied and knelt down before him. Oh, honorable king, please help them for any menial job in your palace that they can do to make ends meet, he begged with outstretched arms. Chineye turned to his mother and he didn't know when he blurted out. Do you think that was the best punishment to give the child you carried in your womb? His eyes looked directly at her. He then told all of them that he was the Chinenye they had thrown away to die in the forest and thanked his personal creator for not forsaking him at all. He narrated all that had happened to him when he was left to die and how he became rich. While this was going on, his mother quietly stood up and ran out of the palace. She was afraid of what the king would do to her. As for Auntie Billy, he hugged her and they were both crying and laughing in joy. He thanked her for being there for him. He also thanked his two brothers for helping him with their food when he was always starved at home and know about it. He let them know that, yes, his creator has proved to them that he is always there beside him. He gave them a section of his palace to live. As for his father, he lived to regret the evil he did to his last born, Chinenye, because the entire village got to know about it and turned him into a laughingstock. That is the end of the story. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share the video so that when I release a new one, you'll be the first, one of the first to get it. Thank you very much. Bye.